Welcome, gentle dreamer. Let your eyes close and your body settle into peace. Tonight let me carry you to another time, to a quiet world, touched only by stars and silence, to a place older than memory, where legends were born in moonlight and wrapped in the whispers of the wind. Take a deep, easy breath in and exhale slowly. As you breathe, imagine the noise of the day dissolving. Let go of the lights, the screens, the thoughts. Make space for breath. Make space for a story that has waited thousands of years to be heard again. You are safe. You are warm. You are wrapped in the rhythm of something eternal. Breathe in the hush of history. Breathe out into a world untouched by time. And together, we begin. Chapter 1. The Land Before Rome. Before the Empire, before the Caesars, before stone cities rose from dust and ambition, there was silence, not the silence of absence, but the hush of a world whole unto itself. Imagine it, a landscape uncarved by war or wheel, the earth soft and fertile, shaped only by time and weather. The hills of central Italy, gentle, breathing, alive. They rise and fall like the shoulders of a sleeping god, blanketed in wild grasses that ripple like water in the breeze. At dawn, the land drinks the sky. Mist clings to the hollows, where deer pass silently like ghosts. The sun spills slowly over the ridgelines, turning every blade of grass into gold. Insects hum their timeless tune. Birds lift their voices in ritual song. These were ancient mornings, older than myth, older than man. To the west, the Tiber river curls like a silver serpent, wide and lazy, slow with wisdom. Its waters hold reflections of stars, of moonlight, of forgotten prayers. You can hear it if you listen. That low, continuous murmur of water slipping over polished stones. A lullaby the land has always known. And in the olive groves the trees whisper, not just leaves brushing together, but voices. Soft, rustling conversations passed from branch to branch, root to root, tree to tree. Whispers that remember everything. The soil here is rich with secrets. It remembers the thunder of hooves before there were roads. It remembers the first footprints pressed into clay by wandering feet, bare feet, cautious and awed. It remembers the breath of wolves, the howl of boars, the silence of the hunter waiting in reeds. There are no marble statues here, no aqueducts, no columns, no shrines, only the rhythm of life untouched by ambition. Shepherds move among the low hills, wearing wool cloaks and carrying staffs of gnarled wood. They speak in murmurs to their sheep, to the land, to the sky. A woman gathers herbs near the stream. Her basket swings gently as she walks. Thyme, mint, fennel, soft with dew. She hums a tune older than words. This is not history. Not yet. This is dream. This is breath before voice. This is pause before poetry. Beneath the surface, deep in the belly of the land, something stirs. Not loudly, not with fanfare, but like a root beginning to stretch beneath soil, like the first heartbeat in a mother's womb, like destiny whispering to the dark. There is a city here, not seen, not built, but felt. It floats in the silence like a star not yet born, a dream waiting to be caught, a song waiting to be sung, and it waits. Not for kings, not for warriors, but for two brothers, carried by river, wrapped in myth, guided by the breath of gods. Chapter 2. The Twin Brothers. The story begins not in light, but in shadow, not in certainty, but in silence. There was once a woman, Rhea Silvia, a princess, a priestess, a mother. She walked alone in the sacred groves of Alba Longa, her footsteps light upon the moss, her thoughts lost in prayer. She served Vesta, the goddess of hearth and flame, and by her vows she was to remain untouched by man, a vessel for purity, for fire, for fate. But fate has never obeyed its own rules. One night, beneath a sky stitched with stars, Mars, the god of war, watched her, not as a conqueror, not as a god hungering for worship, but as something older, a force drawn to destiny, like flame to breath. What passed between them no man can say for certain. A dream, perhaps, a touch in sleep, a kiss beneath the veil of dusk. But from that moment, two lives sparked into being, twin sons born of divinity and danger, Romulus and Remus. Their birth was not a celebration, it was a secret, a threat. The king Amulius, brother to Rhea's father, feared prophecy, feared lineage, feared the boys, for it had been foretold, a new bloodline would rise, stronger than the old, born of gods, carried by river, crowned by wolves. So the king gave the order. The infants were to be drowned. But fate does not bow to fear. A servant, old, trembling, unwilling, placed the boys not in death, but in a basket, tightly woven from reeds and rushes, lined with wool, kissed with tears. She laid them gently upon the surface of the Tiber and pushed them into the current. The river did not roar. It sang, a song only the stars could hear, a song of beginning. The basket floated, carried by the river's breath, past reeds, past stones, past history not yet written. The night was still, the moon full, its reflection long and white upon the water. Imagine it, two infants, wrapped in silence, cradled by myth, their breath soft, their hearts beating in unison, a lullaby written in flesh and fate. And then, from the trees, a shadow emerged, a creature of fur and fang, the she-wolf. To some a monster, to others salvation. She did not growl, she did not bare teeth. She approached with the caution of something ancient, something sacred. Her nose brushed the basket, her ears flicked. She listened, not with flesh but with spirit. She saw them, not prey, not threat, but kin. She lifted them with her jaws, careful, gentle, and carried them to her den beneath Palatine Hill, there where roots twisted through ancient stone, where the wind could not reach, where the river could still be heard in its dreaming. She laid them down. Can you see it? That hollow space beneath the earth, the flicker of firelight reflected in her eyes, the sound of water dripping softly from stone, the smell of pine resin and damp fur. She fed them, with milk as old as time. She curled around them, her body the first fortress they would know, her breath the first wind they would trust. They did not cry, they did not fear. They slept, nestled into fur, wrapped in the oldest protection the world offers, a mother's warmth. She guarded them, day and night, through thunder and moonlight, through hunger and time. No claw touched them, no storm reached them. The gods had chosen, the wolf had answered. And in that den beneath the sleeping hills, history took its first breath. Chapter 3. Children of the Earth. Time passed slowly in the den beneath the hill. The world outside turned with the seasons. Rain softened the soil, and the river swelled with spring. The sun etched long shadows across the stone. The wind brought with it stories of distant lands, but the den remained constant, a heartbeat under the earth. The she-wolf watched them grow. At first they were fragile, all instinct and breath, tiny fists curled like buds before the bloom, but soon their eyes opened, clear, wide, knowing, the way the eyes of children of gods are known to be. They saw the darkness and they did not fear it. They heard the growl of the forest and they did not flinch. They slept nestled in fur and woke with the hunger of fire. She licked their faces, nudged them gently toward her belly when they stirred, and sometimes, when the moon was full, she would lift her muzzle and howl. Long, aching, ancient, a lullaby to the stars, a warning to the night. They learned her ways. They learnt to crawl through dirt and moss, to listen for footsteps that did not belong, to speak the language of growls and glances. They were brothers not only to each other, but to the forest itself. Remus was the quieter of the two. He would sit for hours, watching the ants build tunnels in the soil, tracing the flight of birds with his eyes. He moved like shadow, quick, silent, but with a kindness in him, a softness that lingered. Romulus was flame. He climbed rocks before he could walk. He tried to bite the wind. He wrestled with roots, laughed at thunder, and once, when the wolf growled at a stranger's scent, he stood in front of her and bared his teeth, though he was barely more than a child. The wolf watched all of this, and though she could not speak, she knew what they were becoming. Not wolves, not men, something between, something more. But no life can remain untouched by the world above forever. One day, as the heat of summer pressed into the hills, a shepherd came. His name was Faustulus, a man of weathered hands and slow steps. He had followed the call of a lost goat, only to find two boys playing in a clearing, their skin streaked with dirt, their eyes wild with light. At first he thought them spirits, woodland gods. But then he saw the basket, half buried in reeds. He saw the marks of care. He saw the she-wolf, watching silently from the shadows. And in his heart, he knew. These were not ordinary boys. He took them in, not out of pity, but reverence. He brought them to his home, a small hut near the base of the hills, where his wife welcomed them with open arms. She wrapped them in wool. She sang to them softly, and though they missed the cave, the smell of fur, the cool breath of the earth, they stayed. Chapter 4. The Spark of Destiny. The sun does not ask permission to rise, it simply burns. And so it was with the twins. Romulus and Remus, now young men, towered above their peers, not in height, though they were tall, not in strength, though they were strong, but in presence, in fire, in something that hummed behind their eyes when they looked at the horizon too long. They were shepherds, like Faustulus, but no simple shepherds. They could track a fox through bramble with bare feet. They could lift a ram with one hand and climb a rock wall with the other. When wolves came for the flock, the other herdsmen hid. But not the twins. Remus stood still as stone, while Romulus ran straight toward the flashing eyes in the dark, a torch in one hand, a spear in the other, his voice echoing through the hills like thunder made flesh. Word of them spread, not just among shepherds, but among outlaws, wanderers and warriors. Some called them gods, others demons. But all agreed they were not normal men. One day, while out gathering herbs near the riverbank, Remus stumbled upon a group of men, rough, scarred, armed. They were stealing cattle. Remus shouted, not to call for help, but to challenge them. He did not wait for Romulus. He struck first. The fight was uneven. He was outnumbered, but he fought with the fury of roots torn from earth, with the quiet rage of a child who remembers the silence of the cave. He was captured, dragged back to Alba Longa, to the very palace where his blood had once been sentenced to die. Romulus returned to the hut to find him gone. The flock scattered, the ground marked by blood and hoof. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He followed the trail for days. Through dust, through thorn, through memory. When he reached Alba Longa, he did not sneak in. He walked straight through the gates, eyes forward, jaw clenched. He demanded his brother's release. The guards laughed. Romulus didn't. He fought them, bare-handed. And though he was wounded, though blood ran down his arm like red thread through fabric, he did not fall. In the chaos an old man appeared, white hair, bent back, eyes that had once seen betrayal and fire. Faustulus. But he was not alone. Numitor, the rightful king of Alba Longa, stood beside him. For Faustulus had known all along. He had seen the basket. He had seen the prophecy. And now, the time had come to speak it aloud. In the throne room, under the weight of flame and truth, Faustulus revealed the past. The wolf, the river, the betrayal, the boys. Numitor looked at them, really looked, and in their eyes he saw not boys, not strangers, but his blood. Tears did not fall. This was not a moment of softness. It was fire meeting fire. Remus was freed, the soldiers who had mocked them, silenced, the city, shaken, and Amulius, the usurper king. He ran, but not far. Romulus found him, and he did not hesitate. It was not rage, it was not vengeance, it was justice, swift, cold, necessary. Amulius fell, and in the silence that followed, the people looked to the twins, to the wild boys of myth and marrow, and whispered, "Perhaps the gods have returned." Chapter 5. The Hill of Bones. The throne of Alba Longa was restored. Numitor, old but steady, ruled once again. He offered the twins place, power, prestige, but they refused. They were not meant for halls and silk, for scrolls and courtiers, for the slow rot of marble. Their blood itched for something else, a city of their own. Not one stolen, but one forged, from ash and stone, from dream and bone. They left Alba Longa not as princes, but as builders, as wanderers again. They returned to the land between rivers, to the cradle of their story, the bend in the Tiber, the mouth of the wolf's cave, the hill that had once heard their cries as babes, Palatine Hill. It was not much, just dirt and wildflowers, rocks and grass, but to Romulus it was a promise. "This," he said, driving a wooden stake into the earth, "is where our city begins." Remus stood beside him, smiling, but thoughtful. "Why this hill?" he asked. "We could choose higher ground, fertile plains, better water." Romulus didn't answer with words. He dropped to one knee, placed his palm against the soil, listened, and after a long silence, he said, "Because this is where the gods led us, because this is where the wolf wept, because this is where we were reborn." Remus did not argue, but something in his gaze shifted. The work began. They dug, they chopped, they measured and planned. They were not alone. Other outcasts joined them, runaway slaves, shepherds with no land, thieves looking for redemption, dreamers chasing smoke. It was not yet a city, but it was a movement, a rhythm, a breath. They laid the first stones, marked the sacred boundary. The Pomerium, with fire, salt and sacrifice. Romulus declared it law. None may cross this line in violence, none may mock its boundary. This is the skin of the city to come. Remus laughed, not in cruelty, but in disbelief. He stepped across the line, once, twice, mocking. "You would kill your own brother for a wall of dirt?" he asked. Romulus did not answer. His silence was thunder. The men watched. The air thickened, the sky dimmed, and in the stillness Romulus drew his sword. It was not fast, it was not clean. Remus fell, eyes wide, mouth open, as if to speak a final word. but none came. Romulus knelt, not in grief, but in awe. He pressed his forehead to the ground, right where the blood of his brother soaked into the soil, and he whispered, "My brother, my first city, may the gods remember your name." He buried Remus beneath the wall he had crossed, a king's tomb, a warning, a foundation. Then he rose. He did not look back. He ordered the wall built higher, stronger, and on that hill he named the city. Roma, not after himself, but after the echo of a name that once laughed at death. The city grew, first with fire, then with song, then with the hum of forge and stone. Romulus ruled it as its first king, not with kindness, but with vision. He opened its gates to all, every exile, every orphan, every fugitive who swore loyalty. Welcome. And thus the blood of Rome was mixed, not pure, but potent, a storm of origins, a city born of crime and kin, of murder and myth, of wolves and men. Chapter 6. The Rise of Roma. The walls stood, thicker than stone, woven with legend layered in the blood of the fallen, but walls alone do not make a city. So Romulus turned his gaze inward. What is a city, if not its people? And what are people, without purpose? He called the men together, a ragged collection of runaways, mercenaries, misfits. They stood under torchlight, eyes wary, hands on blades. Romulus raised his arms. "You are not outlaws anymore," he said. "You are Romans." The word was new, sharp, unfamiliar in the mouth, but it echoed. Roma, Roman, ruler. He declared new laws, not carved in stone, but burned into memory. Every man free, every oath sacred, every betrayal punished. The Sabines, nearby and proud, watched with suspicion. Their daughters vanished, their young men drawn to the growing city, to the flame. So Romulus sent no apology. Instead, he sent an invitation. A festival. Games, food, spectacle. The Sabines came, with families, with laughter. And when the sun fell, so did the trap. At Romulus's signal, the Roman men seized the Sabine women, not with cruelty, but with reverence. They did not harm them. They offered them homes, choice, the partnership. And the women, outraged, terrified, yet oddly seen, listened. Some fled, but most stayed. Why? Because Rome was not a cage. It was a beginning. Romulus addressed the women himself. He did not ask forgiveness. He gave them power. "You are the mothers of Rome," he said. "This city will bleed your name through its future. You do not belong to us. We belong to you." The Sabine men returned with armies. There was war, fierce, unforgiving. But before the final blow could be struck, the Sabine women, now Roman wives, ran between the blades. They screamed, "For our fathers, for our husbands, do not make us orphans again." The men dropped their swords, tears fell like arrows, and in that moment Rome was reborn, not in conquest, but in unity. Romulus took the Sabine king, Titus Tatius, as co-ruler. Together they governed, 2 crowns, 1 city, but even that would not last. Tatius died mysteriously in a distant town. Poison, some said. Justice, others whispered. Romulus ruled alone once more, and alone he remained. Chapter 7. The King Who Disappeared. Rome stood, no longer a camp, no longer a dream, but a force. Streets carved from dust, temples raised to silent gods, the clang of hammers and hymns of sacrifice, and at its centre, Romulus, older now, worn but unbroken. He sat on a throne of cedar and iron, not with ease but with vigilance. Every day he judged, disputes over land, over honour, over blood. His word was law, his silence was punishment. But even kings cast shadows. Whispers began, that Romulus no longer saw mortals as kin, that he spoke more with augurs than men, that he had seen something only the gods could offer. One day he gathered the Senate, that circle of elders he had handpicked, men he trusted, men he had raised from nothing. They met in the field of Mars, under a strange sky, still but pulsing. Romulus stood before them, clad not in purple, but in wolfskin, no crown, no blade. He raised his hands, and the wind howled, the clouds twisted, a light split the heavens, thunder without sound, and Romulus was gone. No cry, no scream, no fall, just absence. The senators fell to their knees. Some claimed he was taken by Mars himself, that the war god had reclaimed his son, that a chariot of fire bore him skyward. Others said the senators killed him, silenced a tyrant, buried the truth with their fear. But the people chose the story that burned brightest, that Romulus had ascended, and that from the heavens he still watched, still ruled. They named him Quirinus. A god now, a protector of Rome. Temples rose, festivals bloomed, and the city, now orphaned once more, grew teeth. Rome did not mourn. It marched. Chapter 8. Epilogue. The City Eternal. Rome does not die, it forgets, it burns, it rebuilds, it crumbles, it conquers. But it does not die. The twins, long gone, became more than men. They became seasons, symbols, shadows in marble and flame. Statues rose, myths tangled with memory. Was there truly a she-wolf? Did Remus laugh before the blade? Did Romulus become a god? The city does not care. It marches, it devours, it endures. From Caesar to Christ, from empire to ashes, from popes to poets. Still, Rome stands. And somewhere deep beneath the cobbled streets, in a cave long collapsed, a faint echo stirs. The drip of ancient water, the whisper of fur, the heartbeat of something wild. Roma, not a city, a story. And stories, if told well, never end.